The woman only noticed a slightly raised hidden button on her husband's portrait, but accidentally uncovered a secret he had hidden for years. The moment she curiously pressed it, a heavy freezer door slowly swung open. That inside, neatly lined up, were the bodies of her husband's 6 ex-wives. The sight instantly sent chills through Emma's whole body. Only then did she finally realize her husband was a complete psychopath. Emma screamed in terror and turned to run, but the moment she opened the door, she ran straight into her husband, who had just come home from work. Not wanting him to notice anything strange, she had no choice but to stay calm and pretend nothing had happened. She thought she could get away with it, but her husband, who had already been through 6 marriages, immediately noticed something was off about Emma. He then led Emma into a small room. As it turned out, the wealthy man had installed cameras outside the freezer long ago. The footage of Emma opening the freezer had already been fully recorded. Now that Emma knew his secret, there was no way he was going to let her live. The next second, he tightly grabbed her by the throat, trying to kill her on the spot. But right then, Emma suddenly spoke up. She told him if he wanted to kill her, fine, but at least let her understand before she died. She truly couldn't figure out why a man with endless wealth would kill all 6 of his former wives, because none of the previous wives had ever asked him that question. The rich man finally revealed his absurd and tragic marriage history. His first wife was actually an opera singer. The two met at a horse racing event. With just one glance, they were deeply attracted to each other. Soon after, they became lovers. Not long later, they held a grand wedding. But as time slowly passed, he began to realize something seemed off about his wife, because she was basically singing all the time. She sang while dancing, she sang on dates, and she even sang while eating. At first, the wealthy man could tolerate it, but later he discovered another problem. His wife especially loved randomly scaring people. If this kept going, he felt like one day she'd scare him into a heart attack. So one day, while she wasn't paying attention, he directly carried her onto a guillotine, then without hesitation pulled the blade down. But as a powerful wealthy man, he soon couldn't stand the loneliness again. At a ball one night, he met his second wife. She was a tall and beautiful model. Both her looks and presence were outstanding. So the rich man started spending money like crazy to chase after her, buying gifts, giving jewelry, setting up fancy dates. That was how he finally got close to her, to successfully marry her. He also took her to all kinds of high-end places. In less than a week, he successfully won her over. He thought this time, he'd finally have a happy life. But after getting married, his second wife completely changed. She clung to him every day, wouldn't let him work, and only wanted to stay home with him. At first he could still tolerate all that, until one day, he accidentally discovered that this wife was actually planning to kill him. That day, after pretending to leave the house, the wife immediately invited her best friend over. The two started discussing how to kill the rich man and inherit all his wealth. But what they didn't know was, the rich man hadn't gone far at all. He was hiding nearby, secretly listening to their entire plan. Only then did he finally see his second wife's true colors. To avoid being killed first, while the two were chatting, he used the heavy ivory chandelier overhead to directly kill both of them. After 2 failed marriages, the rich man completely lost faith in love. After hearing all this, Emma stepped forward and hugged him. Comforted by Emma, the rich man continued with his third marriage story. One time while out, he happened to meet a nun. He thought a nun wouldn't care about money, so surely she wouldn't threaten him, so he actively pursued her. After days of relentless chasing, he finally married the nun. He thought this time had finally found the right person, but after marriage, he discovered this nun used to be a total player. She had ex-boyfriends all over the country. At first, the rich man didn't care much. After all, everyone has a past. But as time went on, he noticed his wife constantly bringing up her exes, even compared them to him, and the rich man was extremely prideful. He simply couldn't tolerate it. So one night, he directly suffocated her inside a coffin. After 3 failed marriages, the rich man planned to stay single forever. But during another outing, he met a career-driven woman. Her strong and capable personality once again made his heart race. But after marrying her, he regretted it once again, because this wife is completely different from the previous 3. She always dragged him to go flying planes, and often took him shooting and on adventures. At first, the rich man could still accept it, but over time, he discovered this wife loved drinking, and whenever she got drunk, she would completely lose control. She even frequently got violent with him at home. That was the final straw. So when she wasn't paying attention, he shoved her underwater and drowned her alive. Then he threw her body into the freezer. With the first 3 wives, the rich man originally believed he would never marry again. But at an art exhibition, he met his 5th wife. She was a young woman with a cold personality. Her unique charm once again deeply attracted him. So the rich man used every trick he had and finally married her. But what he didn't expect was that although his 5th wife was young and beautiful, had no interest in spending time with him. She'd rather go out alone and play with her pets than say even one extra word to the rich man. Clearly, this girl didn't care about him at all. At first, the rich man could understand it. After all, the age gap was obvious. But as time passed, he discovered whenever his 5th wife got upset, she loved giving him the silent treatment, and every time it lasted an entire week. That made the rich man feel completely suffocated. In a fit of rage, he finally ended her life. But money was the one thing the rich man never lacked. Naturally, he couldn't stand living alone in a giant mansion. So before long, he welcomed his 6th sixth wife. This wife was incredibly caring. She took perfect care of him in every possible way. She even liked knitting sweaters for him. But one day, the rich man suddenly realized it was all an act because his wife suddenly suggested they go hunting together. The rich man was convinced that was just an excuse. Her real goal was to kill him and inherit all his wealth. So to prevent tragedy, he decided to strike first. After deliberately agreeing to the hunting trip while his wife wasn't paying attention, he directly shot her dead. Then he locked her inside the freezer with the other 5 wives. At that moment, Emma finally realized the problem was probably never those women. The real problem was the rich man himself. Unexpectedly, after hearing those words, the rich man instantly exploded with embarrassment and anger. He turned around and walked out to calm himself down. It turned out that when he was young, he used to be a frontline soldier. During one mission, he was accidentally shot and injured, and because of that, he felt he had lost his manhood and dignity. To avoid being mocked by others, he kept getting married to create the illusion that everything was normal. But obviously, none of those 6 wives could accept a marriage like that, so the rich man simply killed them all. And now Emma knew the truth too. There was no way he would let her go. But instead of killing her immediately, he shoved her directly into the freezer, planning to let her freeze to death with the other 6 wives. The rich man believed his secret would never be exposed. But what he didn't know was, after discovering the truth, Emma had already secretly contacted her brother Noah, and Noah was actually a professional hitman. The next day, while the rich man was out, Noah suddenly appeared. He shot the rich man full of bullets on the spot. Then using a passing train he successfully escaped the scene. Meanwhile, Emma trapped inside the freezer thought she was doomed to die. But the next second, she suddenly heard knocking from outside. The moment she heard it, Emma immediately knocked back. Soon after, Noah opened the freezer door and successfully rescued Emma. At the end of the story, as the wealthy man's 7th wife, Emma naturally inherited all of his fortune. Then together with her brother Noah, she finally turned her life around. And with that the movie comes to an end.